Ken Jackson.
And I'm Debbie Jansen.
We are two motor-mouthed mama bears willing to discuss current events with boldness and honesty.
We are truth warriors. No lie is too big, no deception too small.
And we are sticking to the truth.
Yes, we are. Julene, I have received a few compliments this week. We've only done 6 podcasts, and yet 2 of our listeners wanted us to know that we're doing it right. One listener said she liked that we're honest, but not mean. We are truthful, but not critical. Oh, how sweet is that? The other listener said she likes that we just have fun. I love it too. I have fun. Don't you, Julene?
I do. I tell you, this podcast, my kids, I have 5 kids, ages 29 down to 17. So they always know I'm like, oh, I did my podcast today. And in fact, we have a text devotional because most of my kids don't live at home. So I send out a little, inspirational quote and scripture and then just tell the kids probably about 5 times a week in the morning, a little text devotional of what everyone is doing. And I'll include when the podcasts are loaded on, I'll send them off the podcast because otherwise I don't think they'd ever watch it. But it's cute. They're like starting to send me ideas of things we could talk about. So it's turning into a family affair. So I'm having a ball with this, Deb.
Oh, that's great. I love having fun too. And my kids are into it and they're telling me, okay, Mom, maybe you should wear this different color or maybe you should do this or that. It's fun. They're kind of trying to be the producer, But I love having fun, but I'm quirky.
Yeah.
I believe that honesty and following the truth will always lead to fun. So, and you need to send me what your kids want us to talk about. And that's for everybody. Send me an email and we'll tackle that topic.
Right.
Let's see what we can do with today's topic, though. When we talked about this week's current events, you were a little frustrated with the criticism of the cabinet picks. So what's going on, Julene?
Well, I live in Washington, D.C., where 92% of everyone that voted for Vice President Harris. And so, they're still kind of crying a river of tears. And the headlines of the newspapers, and I get the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal, and they're, the president's problematic picks or the polarizing picks. And this cabinet member is going to do this. And this one's going to, completely end this program. And so, there's a level of kind of a hysteria that is rising over some of these picks. And we're seeing, we just, Matt Gaetz just stepped down and for the Attorney General. And, there were some issues there. And it looks like how do you say his name? Hegseth, for the DOD position. And even if it is kind of a setup, that incident that happened with a married woman in 2017, it does call into question his judgment a little bit. What was he doing sleeping with a married woman whose husband and children were just down the hall from the hotel, And so, you can maybe understand. I'm not sure if Hegseth is going to make it, if he'll bow out. We'll see. But you have seen throughout history, though, we do know that when you put people in that are willing to clean house and tell the truth, the other side, because they can't necessarily attack what he or she might be doing, they attack the personality, right? And we saw that when we studied The Naked Capitalist through Moms for America.
We did.
The defamation and character assassination of Joe McCarthy when he was trying to root out communism within the government echelons, and even the 1964 Barry Goldwater, Republican candidate who was supposed to win, but they just did a hatchet job on his character at the Republican convention. So that's kind of been their protocol, that when they want someone out and they can't necessarily attack his or her record, then they go after the character. It's called character assassination. And so, I think President Trump's picks are going to come in and clean house. he has had 4 years to think about what needs to be done. And he repeatedly, President Trump said, is going to move quickly. And I think that is making the other side very fearful, and he is really coming across as a very strong leader. And so, he wants to come in and clean up the excess and the waste and even the immorality and corruption. And that makes some people very nervous. And so this is what we're seeing, right?
Right. I agree with you 100%. But on these picks, I get concerned when we want them to be perfect. We want them to be perfect human beings because nobody can be that. My question is, do you think things will get done with them? So how do you get people to understand that it's not so much you do want a good judge of character. You do want someone with a good character. You do want an honest person, but you can't have a perfect person. So do you think things will get done with some of these picks?
Ooh, I definitely think they will because they're proven entities. They've been successful in the arenas that they shown in. I mean, just think of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. They're going to have 18 months. They head up the DOGE, the Department of, Governmental Efficiency. And I think, I think Elon Musk said they're going to try and cut $2 trillion worth of spending or potential spending. And to be honest with you, what they're doing is taking us back to what our founding fathers intended. What Amendments 9 and 10 says, that there should be only limited and carefully defined powers delegated to the federal government, and all other issues should be reserved to the states and to the people respectively in those states. And so they're paring down the government. And really, when we study this in the Healing of America seminar that Moms for America puts out, we're going to start to teach it in February. So I'd like to encourage everyone, because we're going to talk about, how do we scale down the government and have it work the way our founding fathers intended it to, and the way it did for, the first 100, 120, 30 years. And really that means repealing the 16th and the 17th Amendments. And the 16th Amendment is what enacted the federal income tax. And when we did that in 1913, we began to put ourselves on the road to socialism because we grew the budget and the money that they were now directly coming into our pockets and taxing them. Before that, it was the states. Are you following me, Deb?
Yeah, I'm following you. This is great. Keep going, babe. I'm following you.
And before 1913, it was each state's responsibility to come up with their share of the federal government. So if California made up of 10% of the population of America, they were responsible for 10% of the federal budget, okay? And it was California and the governor and the people's responsibility to decide how they were going to tax the people to get their 10%, right?
Yeah.
And then the 17th Amendment, when they passed that completely disrupted the balance of power, because before then, the senators were beholden to the state. So they would come home every weekend and ask the state legislature, should I vote for this bill because it's going to cost this much amount of money? And so we're now going to have to, California is going to have to somehow come up with this much amount of money to pay our part for these bills that we might pass, we might not.
Yeah,
and so the states were like, well, wait a minute. Can we afford this? Is this going to take away the rights of Californians? And so the House of Representatives, the 2-year member of Congress, was beholden to the individual in the state, but the senator was beholden to the state body, the state legislature.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So,
you're blowing my mind, babe.
So I'm just saying, I had to learn this thing I had to teach this 10 times before I began to understand that you repeal the 17th Amendment, where now the senators are beholden to the states instead of, because the first time around, so now senators are beholden to the individuals in the state, just like the House of Representatives are. And that's not what the founding fathers intended. So basically what Musk and Ramaswamy are trying to do, they're trying to shrink the government, right? Trying to be more true to the 9th and 10th Amendment. And what they need to do is they need to come to our classes, and they will learn the simple thing that they need to do is just repeal the 17th Amendment to restore the check and balance, because we've lost that vertical check with the state. The state now has no say because the federal government can go in directly into a person's pocket and tax them federally.
Yeah.
So you repeal the 17th Amendment, then you repeal the 16th Amendment, because that cuts off the money to Washington, D.C., and you begin to solve your problems at a local level, which our founders intended. So, yeah.
Wow.
You know what? They're going to get on the road to reducing government, and I think it's really exciting because people that look to government as their God, as their deliverer, as, someone to bail them out, that's going to make them nervous. But people who love freedom, that want to be able to figure out, solutions to their own problem, and at the local level, that's where it's best solved, are going to love what,
Oh, Julian, I love this. I love watching you get going. You are like a jet engine that just kind of, I go.
I know it goes against your, you're like, oh no, our senators should, do what I say. No, the senators were supposed to do what the state legislature. That was the check and balance. They were on the walls looking out for the state. Now that senator has been knocked off and no one is protecting the state, and we have like a runaway federal government, way too much power in the executive branch and limited power in the legislative branch because of that 16th and 17th Amendment.
Okay, Julian, you are phenomenal, and I'm just going to put a plug in here. This lady knows how the government works. If you want to change our government here in the U.S., you need to understand how to get that changed. And I think the incoming administration understands that. But I will try to send a few emails to Elon and tell him he needs to check you out on Moms for America.
Do you think he would come on our show? We could school the genius that he is.
Oh, if we don't know how it works, we can't fix it.
Right.
And I agree with you. You got to cut the money. You got to cut the waste. You got to get in there and find out what can we get rid of so that we can be debt-free here in America, get rid of some of these taxes that are burdening our people. And we all want a better life, but there is a plan to get that better life. Yeah. And you've got to have a plan that works, which means you need to know how the government works so you can get in the middle of it and get it changed, right? Am I right?
You are, knowledge is power, sister, and when you understand what our founding fathers intended and you know how it got broke, then you know how to heal it and repair it. And that's what President Trump is, saying he's going to do. And it's super exciting for those of us that know, how it was intended to be. And it's become unhinged, but he knows he's on that path to healing. And this is why so many people are worried about the picks, because he wants to go back truly and make America great again.
And a lot of people haven't had the advantage of listening to the classes that we provide, the classes that you and I are going to provide, the things we're going to talk about here on Sticking to the Truth, which is we have to know it ourselves so we can stop digging the hole. Have you ever heard that statement? If you want to make progress, stop digging the hole that you're in. Just get out of the hole. And so much of our government is just year after year after year of digging that hole and getting worse and worse. And we can stop some of that, but we need to teach our kids. Abraham Maslow, I think I've said this before, but I can't say it enough. He said, if you want a better society, you have to grow better people. Well, that involves parenting. It involves your faith. It involves education. Not only do Julene and I need to know how the government works, you need to know how the government works, and you need to teach that to your kids. So get some classes, and I would suggest Julene's classes because they're wonderful. Let me get back to one other thing I was thinking. I keep thinking, why are these people, you know me, always going for the whys. why are they so negative about these picks? And why do they just want to be so mean and taking them down? And I think that, wait a minute, I have to giggle when I think about the reactions of some people, because I think they feel like if you're negative and mean and angry, that somehow that qualifies you as intelligent. And that's just not true. You can be a happy warrior. And I hope that I'm happy warrior. And I know, Julene, that you are. So anyway, I'm sorry, sidetracked. But I feel like one of the three things that might be happening is maybe these people just want to be different. And they can't accept anything that Trump or these picks do, because agreeing with them would feel like a betrayal of, quote, their team. Maybe they are stuck in the root of the Democrats, I'm rooting for my team, even if they're wrong mode. And that won't ever solve the problem. That's just digging the hole deeper. Or maybe they can't read people, which I think is a big part of any problem. No one's perfect at reading others, but if we investigate who they are, we can understand how they might respond. Some people believe that they can know you without ever meeting you or getting to know who you are. They rely on hearsay or negative images or even sounds, what music you like, or whether you whistle or you drum on your desk with a pencil. I think a lot of good politicians or even cabinet members get a bad rap because people just don't understand who they are or what they would do in any situation. Now, I don't believe that Trump is Hitler or that he will destroy our Constitution. I think he's going to be tough, and I think he's going to cut a lot of stuff. Don't you, Julene?
I sure do, yeah.
Yeah. But I've listened to a lot of stories about him, how good he is to some people, the thousands of dollars he's given people that were hurting. I've listened to him speak, and I watched what he did the last time he was in office. I've read about how he helps people and how patriotic he is, and I've read a lot of his books. So I kind of have a sense of who he is. And then I also know someone that worked right with him, and she said he was a stickler for truth. And well, I like that. He's sticking to the truth too, Julene. And she said that he could be very hard about getting work done and getting it done right. Well, I don't think that's a bad trait. It may be hard to take, and they may not be part of what this country needs in order to get out of the mess we're in, because if you don't worry about getting the job done, you're not really helping. Some people say they don't like his tweets or his name calling or his stern ways. But here's the problem, Julene. We've got some snakes in our government. And we don't need a weak-minded nice guy. We need a snake trainer. We need someone who's willing to take the helm of this humongous ship and turn it around. So when I decided to give him a chance, it wasn't on some mystical illusion about maybe sort of this is what he's going to do. I really investigated who he is. And to do that, you have to pull all these different things together so that you can make a justifiable assumption of what would they do in that situation. Now, I've experienced that myself. I've had some people think that I'm a racist just because I have a Southern accent. Now, I don't really think I'm talking Southern today. I've been up north for so long.
Yeah.
But then, honey, if you want me to, I can talk to you, darling, just like they do in the South. Oh, you sweet thing, you. So I can do it.
I like that. That was cute. Do that again, Debbie.
Oh, sweetheart. Yeah, I can throw it just as good as anybody. Anyway, this one, this reminds me of a situation that happened to me in around 1968. I was about 18 or 19. I worked in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. I parked in a garage outside the city so I could miss traffic. And I would catch a bus from there into the city where I worked. I always sat behind the driver because I was a young girl, you know, going into this big town by myself. And one busy day, when it was time to go home, the bus was loaded, and I was sitting behind the driver, and a young, pregnant black woman with a bag of groceries and a 2-year-old tried to get on the bus. And she finally got up there, and the driver yelled for her to get to the back of the bus. Now, they were still doing that in the late 60s. And I stood up and told her to sit in my seat. Well, she looked at me with these big eyes, and she was scared to death. And I told her, no, honey, it's going to be okay. Just sit down, and I'll help you with your son. The bus driver slammed on the brakes and yelled again, I said, get to the back of the bus. You people smell. That made me so furious. I was livid. And she started to get up, but I stopped her. And because I was hanging on to the bar, standing beside her, you know. I turned to the bus driver and I said, she will not move. It was my seat, and I gave it to her. Now, I'm a good Southern woman in that you can't put me down. I don't allow that. And I've never allowed that even as a teenager. So I was scared. I was shaking, but I was not about to let this burly guy win. He got up and he cursed at me and he yelled, I'm in charge here, and either she goes to the back of the bus or I'll throw both of you off. Now, the man was huge and hairy and sweating in the summer heat, and I was only 18 or 19, thin and in my 2-inch heels. But I was not about to let him push this poor young mom to the back of the bus where there wasn't any seats, where she'd have those groceries and her kid. I put my hands on my hip, and I laughed. I laughed, Julene. I said, go ahead, kick us off, and I'll call the police before you can get back on the bus. Then I'll go straight to CBS Studio, which was only about a mile down the road, and tell them our story. I'll call every newspaper that will listen to me, and I'll let them know what you've done. Go ahead and just try. You will be sorry. And this guy's towering over me, and I'm shaking, but I'm saying it. And he huffed and he puffed, but he returned to his seat. Now, I rode the bus for an hour until she got off at her stop, because I knew if I got off, he would throw her off at the next stop. So I watched him sit for 30 minutes at the end of the line and eat something before he made the turnaround and took me back to my stop. Here's my point. I did that because I'm not a racist, and I cared about a pregnant black woman and her son. You can't judge somebody by the simple things that you see or hear. You have to get to know them. And anyone that thinks they know me just because I have a Southern accent, they don't really know me. Right. You can't judge by that sort of thing. You have to know my heart, my thoughts, my beliefs, and look at what I have done to make a good judgment. What do you think, Julie?
Oh, that is so beautiful. As a teenage girl, you had the courage and confidence to stand on that wall and stand for, mistreatment when you saw it. Tell me again, what was the city and state that took place?
It was in Atlanta, Georgia. Downtown Atlanta, Georgia.
Isn't that interesting? Well, that's really an incredible story, Debbie, and I'm sure that little mama at that young age probably never forgot what you did for her, and clearly it did something for you as well, right?
Right.
But you can see, though, in this day and age, and probably since the beginning of time, but it seems so more prevalent now to label people or to stereotype them or to point fingers and say that person that sounds like that or speaks like that, they're a threat to me or to society. And I believe all these kind of labelings are tools of, I think, people that want to divide, right? Insecure people want to divide. Confident people want to build, heal, repair. Insecure people want to pit one another against each other. And that's really, I believe, the playbook of people that, hate America, that are enemies to God, enemies to freedom. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I teach my kids that Satan is the father of all lies, and he wants God's children to contend against each other. These are like traps 101, Satan 101 traps. And so you can see that we're falling into these traps when it comes to political agendas and political narratives. We can, label or make certain accusations that aren't really true or fair. We don't even know the person, but we assume that, that they're like this, that it can help different sides who are trying to divide politically.
Right. And I want to end with this because I think it's very important. Mature people are people who can put their own emotions aside and look at someone else in as they hold them accountable or as they want to judge whether or not they're good or bad, but they look at what's truly them. They don't look through their own impressions and make that person what they think they want them to be. They're honestly looking at them. That's a mature act. Yeah. You have to leave your emotions out of it and just look for the truth and stick to the truth. Right, Julene?
Yeah. Right. And I mean, what helps you do that? What helps you to not have a bias, Debbie, to be able to, when someone says something that's different than maybe how you might have thought or believed, but it makes some sense and you're willing to listen to them? What causes a person to be able to kind of be more civil and give and take? What do you think?
I'm always arguing with myself. That's what I do to find the truth. There are some things that other people have done, and I will say, I don't like that. I don't think that's a good thing. And then the next thing that comes into my head is, what if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? Yeah. Don't always suppose that the other person is wrong. Ask yourself, and it doesn't mean you accept what they're saying, but what it does mean is now you're in that mode to go forward and push for the facts of the situation. You're never going to get to a really good conclusion, a mature conclusion, unless you are digging for those facts. And that means you constantly have to question yourself.
Well, and don't you think you also have to constantly be studying and learning?
Right.
Our like most favorite book, The 5,000-Year Lead.
Yeah.
When you know and understand the principles upon which this nation was founded, and like Principle 21, strong local self-government is the keystone to preserving human freedom. So if that was a core principle that our founders used to establish this country, what President Trump is trying to do, shrink the federal government and make decisions based on the local level, is in keeping with a principle, right?
Right.
So when you know your principles, it helps you to discern what is truth from error, what really is, because some people will make really good emotional arguments.
Yeah.
But, the rule of law is not based on emotion. It's based on principle, right?
Yes.
Law.
Yes.
God's law.
Right.
And so when you know principle, it helps you to discern kind of the feeling and the rhetoric and the emotion from truth.
Yeah, exactly. You are so right. You know what? I think we need to do a couple of podcasts where we just let you run with it. I'm loving this.
People will be like snoozing.
No.
They'll wake up at the 29-minute mark and wonder what happened.
I love it. Listeners, contact me at debbie@debbiejansen.com. We'd love to hear what you have to say and what you want us to go for. Now, we got just a couple minutes. We got to get through this, Julene. What is your tip for today? I'm going to go first, and then you can tell us your tip. Okay. My tip is don't hit the trash man. Okay? He's only trying to remove the trash away so you can see the new car you bought. You'll forget about all the junk that's been hauled away when you sit in your new car listening to music and enjoying the ride to work without having a breakdown. So let's don't hit the trash man that's trying to take the trash out of Washington, okay? There has never been a job, a spouse, a philosophy, or a country that didn't have a little trash buildup. Wait and see if this administration works out. Give it some time. Nothing in life is irreversible except for death. If things don't go as planned, tomorrow's another day, and someone will probably have a new idea. Yeah. So what is your tip, Julene?
I like that. Don't hit the trash
man.
Don't take out the man who's going to clean things up. Hey,
Yeah.
we're always kind of in sync here, but I think my tip is don't take counsel from your fears, right? Our trash man is
Yeah.
proposing some sweeping actions, right? He wants to
Yeah.
clean the place up, and it's it's a big agenda he's proposing, and he wants to move fast. He wants to he wants to get rid of the
Yeah.
trash
Yeah.
quickly. And
Yeah.
so, I think when you have a new sheriff in town, or, when it's the new year or a clean sweep or, anything, when there's new change, I think it's a good opportunity to look internally within yourself, right? How can I maybe clean out some things that I've been doing that need improvement? How can I work smarter? How can I save more money, save smarter? How can I serve other people better? How can I defend the truth? Do I need to educate? How can I worship better? How can I teach my children? And so, clearing out the clutter is a good thing. It's a time for some introspection, for time to seek, deeper truth. It's a time for growth and rebirth, I think. And so, let's just focus on creating a nation that we want for our future generations, a life that we want for ourselves personally. And this to me is like living within the solution. But it means that we're going to have to clear out what's not working and look for ways that we can expand new ideas and put in new systems. And that's exciting.
I agree. I agree. It's very, very exciting. Great tip, Julene. Now we want to take a minute. It's Thanksgiving and you have to watch on Thanksgiving Day. It's just about a 2-minute podcast that we're going to share with you. It's from Mar-a-Lago. We had so much fun. We spent last weekend at Mar-a-Lago, and we will wish you a happy Thanksgiving from there. But we have one more very special thing. Today, Julene and I would like to give a shout out and a big thank you to our producer and IT person. Ken Jansen of Downport International helps us get this podcast online. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much.
He inspires us to keep going, and he helps us advertise. He made us our cards, and he does all those little additions that make this podcast work. And Jamie Jansen has done all of our photography for some of our marketing. He's wonderful, too. Thank you, Jamie. I thank God for both of these men because they are my wonderful sons. But Julene and I are so very thankful because they have a servant's heart, a beautiful spirit, and a wealth of knowledge. If you need Ken's services, you can contact him by following the link below to Ken at downportinternational.com. Thank you for being with us today. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again. Pass it around. Tell everybody we're here having fun. And if you contact me, we'll discuss fresh topics. We'll talk about your the topics that you want us to cover. At DebbieJansen.com, my store is having a Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale. So check it out. This is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Julene Jackson. We hope you're sticking to the truth. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.
Happy Thanksgiving!
Happy Thanksgiving.